CNN just did a hit piece on the Manosphere, and I just saw it a second ago, guys. I am still shocked. And I know some people are probably thinking like, well, it's CNN. Why are you shocked? It's to the degree of the lies, right? It's to the degree of the inaccuracies. It's to the degree of the deflection that is used within this hit piece. And the thing is like, you know, as a child, I used to look at these media organizations and think that they would have some type of journalistic value that they're giving, like, but now I'm beginning to understand that it has nothing to do with journalism or trying to be accurate to the truth. They're just looking for ratings, or they're looking to placate to their biases or the biases of the audience. They don't want to give the truth. They want to make them feel good. And this piece demonstrates just that. Guys, drop comments down up in here if you think that I should go live and we can have a live stream conversation back and forth. If this gets a lot of comments, I will go live because there's so much to say about this. But without further ado, inside the Manosphere, let's go.
CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the Manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
Cool.
They speak liberal.
Wait a minute, who's this?
Friends, and then they go online, and they are a white supremacist.
What?
This is Vera
Where's Jake?
Papasova. She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
For a story?
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are.
Where's Jake Shields at, baby? In the beginning, you said we was going to be talking with him, and now you have a cosmopolitan writing, feminist cookie cutter. I mean, if you look up feminist in the dictionary, it's her damn face. Talking about that she lied to far-right men to go on dates, and she turned out not liking those men. Oh, go figure. Yeah, she's not biased. Any guy saying anything positive about masculinity or manhood is considered far right to women like this. But let's proceed.
And they don't know how to figure that out.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called Manosphere.
Sign language
They did not listen
specialist.
to anything else. They're only listening to independent media, and they're only
Good.
listening to men talking to men.
The Manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
Is that Tate?
There's no such thing as an independent female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space where UFC fighters...
Now, I will say, it is a fantastic marketing and branding strategy for them to bring out the far extremes of what are considered manosphere. Now, newsflash, CNN, Andrew Tate has never said that he is within the manosphere. And in fact, ask him about the manosphere, ask him about Red Pill, and he's like, that shit's for lames. You're utilizing him as a talking point within a piece that says inside the manosphere, and you're utilizing clips of someone that doesn't identify themselves
macho
in the
podcasters
manosphere.
and influencers.
What are y'all doing?
Female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Now, it looks like they grabbed this clip from Jake Shields' podcast. And the thing is like, again, you're taking the most extreme examples and saying that this is the gold standard. The context behind what he's saying is that women have the majority of consumer debt. Now, that's the way or the context that I would bring it up in a conversation. But because I don't say these types of blanketed statements, it's not going to be the things that get clipped up. But do you guys see how easy it is to snip different things out of different videos and utilize it in order to push a bias? But if you didn't add context to that, then you guys are beginning to see why I also said that I'm not a part of the manosphere so many years ago. If you can't control the brand of something, detach yourself and create your own. Let's go.
Females don't have independent thought.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what
they firing
can.
shots at the
They're
UFC now.
modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former
Okay, here we
UFC
go.
star turned podcaster.
And the reason why they're firing shots at the UFC is because both Elon Musk as well as Trump frequent UFC events. So now UFC to CNN is enemy number maybe 3. Let's go.
All right. Now I'm starting to feel nervous.
Why are you feeling nervous?
Thanks for having us. Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
What?
Like all great MMA pros.
Taking an asthma pump? Hold up. This is what y'all want being represented as men?
Houston, we have a problem.
Ladies, take a look at what the goddamn... Look at the soy-filled Twinkie boy taking an asthma pump, before he even gets into the goddamn cage. They wonder why they've lost so many men on their side of the political spectrum. Because this is what your example of man is, of masculinity. He looked like he's never been into the gym. This is their ideal man. Low testosterone with a punchable face. Squealing.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, I'm sitting right here. KO.
This is CNN. Do you miss being full-time pro, like in terms of?
Yeah, you know, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs,
Yeah.
to retirement.
And I guess
That's tough.
Yeah, the podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like
real.
other podcasters in the Manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to be told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like, why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology.
I agree with
hear
him.
what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I knew you're controversial, but I had no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
Let's go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white-only group?
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really on top of them.
He's going to push
But
back.
see, you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right?
On.
People will say, well, you brought on
Yeah.
a Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but
Yeah.
if people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expect it.
Now, I 100% agree with Jake Shields right here. I think that the best way to understand someone's points and positions is to actually have a conversation with them. Sit down and talk with them, not hear a CNN or even a Fox News describe what that interview was like. But however, if your guests that you're interviewing only represent one side of it, you could go get other races of people that are racist towards white people. Sit them down and have a conversation with them. If the goal is to uncover the truths about the things that happen within society. But if there's only one type of person spewing one type of shit, then in effect, you're giving them a platform to be able to do it. And you're going to attract that audience of those people with those types of views. But I like what Jake is saying is that even when he invites these people up to have a conversation, he's pushing back if they go over the top. By the way, would you guys rather have a military of Jake Shields or a military of Jigglypoofs? But yeah, if you only have white supremacists on, well, then it gives the perception that you as a podcaster are a white supremacist. It actually made me think of this video right here where Gideon, a black podcaster, live streamer, content creator, met up with Tom Robb, the leader of the KKK, and they had conversation. I don't think that's him right there. There he goes right there. Look at the sheer shock on this in this man's eyes. But yeah, but people with different thoughts, feelings, ideologies, if they had platforms to just talk about it, I bet you a lot of this shit can get worked out.
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated
cares
were
about
really
her?
looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives, regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems. And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
I had to come to a profile. I don't believe a damn word that she's saying. Yeah, okay, ma'am, that's all that they talked about. Sure. And just like I thought, Super Saiyan feminist, way over the wall, likes to show off her hamstrings and shit like that on her basic ass profile. Forever single, with no one wanting to sign up for her man-hating bullshit, utilizing the comfort of being a journalist to spread her ideology. Listen, you guys had a conversation with Jake Shield. He treated you like a sweetheart. How about you show us more from that interview, but instead we get secondhand accounts? Did you record the meeting? Can we hear them talk about this shit, or are we just gonna believe your hearsay bullshit? Let's see if they bring up some of Jake Shield's interview.
You need therapy.
Again.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
No, it doesn't. Shit, I like being alone. I like being within my own thoughts. What are you talking about? Maybe you alone thinking about your life accomplishments, it breeds hatred for yourself, and then you project that bitterness onto the conservative men that you chose to date for your cockamamie story. But no, being treated like shit breeds hatred. Unfair or unjust family court laws will breed hatred. Having your thoughts, opinions, ideologies ignored might breed hatred at a rate where men are ending themselves 4 times the rate as women. For men, there's some real issues and some real challenges that's going on, but instead you're saying isolation breeds contempt.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but community based on racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity
this
to
is
talk
so
to people
crazy
that you don't agree with? Because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
And it's so crazy too, because Andrew Tate's not white, Fresh and Fit not white. I wish someone who's looking for the truth would actually do a study on how many men that look at Manosphere content would describe themselves as far right. I bet you it's ridiculously small. But what they're doing here is simply fear-mongering. This is why independent media has been whipping their asses for years now, because people are tired of this same old fake news bullshit. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Donny O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donny, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the Manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the Manosphere?
Wow.
Hey, Isabel. Yeah, and look, we should point out at the start here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, you know, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role, really, in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami, Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own, and on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote-unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that, but you know, you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
There has never been a movement, there's never been an organization to exist ever that doesn't have certain people within it that have extreme ideologies. The thing is that when they are extreme, those are the ones that hit media attention, and the smooth brain of the population will think that the small minority of people with these ideologies must represent everybody that exists in it, right? You at a date with the chick and you talking with her and you're like, so what are your hobbies? She says her bullshit. She goes back to you and you say, oh, I like mixed martial arts. I like to box. I like to watch the UFC. And then you turn and you look at her and she looking at you like, you must be a white supremacist. And you just looking back at her like, yep, I guess that this conversation is done, because she's a lemming to the media that she's been exposed to. Back in the day when I used to hear Trump, like in the 2015-ish, 2016-ish, talk about things such as fake news, I understood what he was saying, but I never really got it until I got on the other side of creating media, and then I begin to see, like, to the degree of fake that exists. I'd rate the accuracy meter here a 0 out of 10, but I would also rate The fear-mongering meter here, a 10 out of 10. And maybe at the end of the day, that's all that they are going for. Anyway, drop your comments down below. I want to hear from you guys what you think about this particular piece of content. Do you think CNN got it right? Do you think CNN got it wrong? I mean, inevitably, my final opinion is that it's easy to be entertained by these news organizations to just accept what they say as gospel, but it takes the truly intelligent to watch different forms of media, to understand the different talking points, perhaps what is driving the particular points that they are saying in order to come to the truth. But regular people need to step back in, look at both sides, and judge the truth behind the noise. That's going to leave you guys here today. Let me know what you think. Comments down below. And I'm out of here. Until next time, YouTube. Peace. You is ratchet as they come. Rainbow weaves and batwing lashes. Weighing more than a man. What time is your football practice? I bet you can hit that A-gift like a mug. How you big back it. Said a man must buy you gifts. Where here goes a Fitbit tracker. Are you mad? Cause you got 3 kids by 4 different dads. You pick cookies, then you bash. Oh man, when you get sad, then